so now that we know just a little bit of Mei Fang, obviously you're going to want to study her card backwards and forwards and memorize every single thing. Like, you might forget a bunch of stuff. Like, for example, sometimes you forget her price of progress rule. You might forget. I've forgotten almost everything at least once in at least one game that I played her with. So, lifer, so immune to terrifying. You might forget price of progress, the ability to draw a control card when you kill something. And then you've got like Shapes in the Steam, Roaring Boiler, Steel Resolve. Unstoppable Industry is also a very good one because that makes her immune to slow. So, honestly, probably step one, get to know Mei Fang, like memorize her card. And there's a lot on her card. As you can see, it's full. You're going to want to study everything. So there's that with Mei Fang. Now let's start talking about her starter crew and how you might approach playing her starter crew. Like I said, her starter crew is 25 soul stones on the nose. If you wanted a couple of extra soul stones, you might be tempted to get rid of this guy, the Emberling. I personally don't like that option. I might even consider getting rid of one of the rail workers first, because the Emberling, to me, is a very vital part of the crew. So anyway, let's talk about how this crew works. Just this, because this is what you're going to start with, and I really couldn't recommend a better way to learn how to play her other than just break this crew box out and start to get to know things, start to get to know ranges, areas of influence, start to get to know exactly how fast she is with this crew. And it's not going to be blindingly fast. We're not talking Colette here or Marcus, but it's mobile. I'll put it to you that way. It's a mobile crew, and it's the way this is built. This is a fairly hard-hitting crew. This is a hard-hitting melee crew that can give itself some buffs, and we'll talk about that in a second. One thing that is really cool about this crew here, I've got 4 MNSU members. That may not matter to as much when you play her as a 10 Thunders Master, but as an Arcanist, that's awesome. Because then I can throw in something like, for example, a Union Miner, and I can gain Companion with most of the crew. I can actually Companion chain the entire crew, depending on my placement. You can hire guys like Johan, which are going to benefit from the MNSU buffs of having MNSU guys around him. So don't forget the MNSU part of this box set as is. So start playing the box set. Let's talk about things one by one. So first up we have the Emberling, which I think I might have mentioned that I don't like to take Mei Fang without. It really gets under my skin if I have to play without the Emberling, because the Emberling is a critical buff piece for the crew and for Mei Fang in particular. First off, it's only 2 soul stones, so it's a bargain as far as most totems go. No, it's no Hungering Darkness, but it's a very good totem, and it's for me, it will always be taken with Mei Fang unless something really screwed up. It's a spirit. It does have float, so it's a very mobile totem. Doesn't have a charge. Good, reasonable 5-inch move on it, and it has the ability to hand out soul stones via its melee attack, Simmer. At CB3, not very reliable, so that's normally not what I do with the Emberling. It does have some really cool zero abilities, and that's really where I think some of the beauty of the Emberling comes into play. For example, Link is nice because, linking with a very mobile model like Mei Fang is very useful, but don't limit yourself to that. One of the things that's really cool to do is to link the Emberling to, say, somebody like Kang, because the Emberling can do some cool stuff when it's linked to Kang, or even when it's not linked to Kang. Its other zero action is what I'm referring to right there, and the other zero action is Vent Steam. Vent Steam is one of the staples of your rail crew. So Vent Steam is basically your 4-inch obscuring aura, which will give you obscuring 3 inches in, or you can see into 3 inches of this obscuring template. But if you place the emberling in the right manner, say with Kang here in tow, now it becomes very difficult for opponents to draw a line of sight to Kang. Now what's cool about this is, and we'll get into Kang in a little bit, he has a couple abilities that will allow him to just charge straight through this vent steam. So these two work really well together. Another thing that I really like to do with the emberling is what I call the punt. So at the start of the game, I may have, for example, Kang. There are actually more elaborate punts that I've done, but you may start off with Kang here, and you may, if you don't need the vent steam, you may link as your 0. Well, you may go defensive stance, link, and then you may do you may borrow Mei Fang spell, Seismic Punch. That's going to give Mr. Kang here an additional 3-inch move before he's activated. And for somebody that's fairly slow like Kang, that's a big deal. That means he could potentially be 11 inches up the board with an attack at 2 inches, or 13-inch threat range out of the off the first turn. That's not horrible for somebody that's kind of slow and tanky like Kang is. So Vent Steam being the big one, Seismic Punch also being very nice. Don't forget that the emberling can also rail walk. So if the emberling is too far away from where it needs to be, you might even just defensive stance, Vent Steam, and then rail walk over to something, and now you can provide cover fairly far up the board. So I know there's a lot more to cover on these, but I'm trying to move through this kind of intro fairly quickly. So we covered the emberling. That's kind of an armored spirit, really cool, high utility piece. I love taking it. The other individual or unique model in the Mei Fang rail crew is Kang. Now Kang is one of my favorite beat sticks, though I don't consider him somebody that you take all the time. But when you're learning how to play this crew and you're starting with the box set, Kang is going to be one of your linchpins. Now, he is 8 soul stones, which is normally higher than what I like to spend on minions, particularly unarmored minions, but Kang is totally going to be worth it. At 8 wounds, melee beast, he's got a number of things that make him really cool. He also has a lot of synergy with living models in particular, and my favorite thing, to exploit MNSU members, because Kang has a 0 action, Fight With Me, that will give a +1 CB to all friendly models with the MNSU characteristic. And yes, that does include Mei Feng herself. So imagine Mei Feng striking CB7 paired because she's hanging out with Kang. Imagine Johan here within 3 inches of Kang. He is now CB5 +2 +1. He's CB8 for a 6 soulstone model because he happens to be MNSU and he happens to be hanging out with Kang. That is amazing as far as I'm concerned. That's a bargain. So Kang has some particular synergies with MNSU models. He's a bit slow, like we talked about, but he's got a couple of things that make him really interesting. In fact, he's so interesting that a lot of players advocate taking Kang as their main beat stick in other 10 Thunders crews. So even they would even consider trading him out for Graves, for example, or for a Toto. Some people just like Kang, mainly because he's got a couple things going for him. He's got Shapes in the Steam, which is an ability that the whole rail crew will have except for the Emberling. I don't know why. That thing is Steam, but it doesn't have it. Shapes in the Steam, which means Kang will ignore obscuring and the obscuring trait generated by auras and markers. So, like I said before, if you had Kang behind the Emberling here, and the Emberling had Vent Steam up, well, the Emberling is a spirit for one, and he's in an obscuring marker. So if you had Kang, say here, and you had the Emberling, and the Emberling had Vent Steam up, and you had a target in front of you, but outside of that Vent Steam, Kang on his activation can charge straight through that whereas the opposing model would have to first would have to walk into the obscuring, and then, depending on the number of AP it had left, it could either charge or walk over and then try to use like a melee expert to swing. That's a fairly huge advantage that Kang has. Another advantage that Kang has is the can't keep him down rule, which means that Kang will heal the number of wounds according to the round it is. That becomes huge at endgame, especially when you pair that with hard to kill. So say it was turn 5 and your opponent is sick of Kang hanging around, knocking people away with his auto knockback trigger, keeping them off objectives, and basically being a tanky nuisance. Let's say your opponent focuses him virtually all the way down until they get off a super attack, hard to kill kicks in, then suddenly it becomes turn 6 and he heals up, guess what, 6 wounds back. That is amazing. That to me is part of what makes him an 8 Soulstone model. It's part of why he's an always consider for my crew, along with the MNSU abilities. Now people talk about rousing speech, which requires an 8 tome to get off. It's great if you were facing Terrifying or you're facing Terrifying, but this is one of those situational things. I don't particularly weigh out Kang because, I might be facing Pandora and I'm going to be bringing, rail workers. Yeah, sure, obviously you would want to do that, but an 8 tome in a crew like the Rail Crew is a very valuable card indeed. That said, it is a useful ability. It's just not one of the things that I identify with when people are comparing the 8 Soulstone 10 Thunders models. That rousing speech is nice, but honestly for me it's about the MNSU synergy, it's about his hard to kill and can't keep him down, and it's about his shapes in the steam. Don't forget, on the 10 Thunder side, that Kang can charge through smoke bombs because of shapes in the steam, and that's a very cool thing for Kang to be able to do. Okay, so now let's talk about rail workers, which are kind of the infantry or the basic model unit that come with the box set. These are 5 Soulstone models. They are living models, so something to bear in mind. What's nice though is that they are MNSU members, and they have a number of things that make them very versatile. They're fairly slow, only walk 4, but 2-inch melee range is nice, and a nice damage spread at 245, and some CV triggers, which are quite nice. Now, the rail workers are also more metal than man, so they are susceptible to things that affect constructs. But that will come up against things opponents like C. Hoffman or Ramos, for example, maybe Karras. But I haven't found that it's come up very often with me. Now, 5 Soulstones, but only 6 wounds in defense 5. You might be thinking, early on, you might be struggling to keep them alive, especially if you're not using them, using the benefits of Vent Steam to its fullest ability, and you might not also be doing something with Mei Fang, which is you might not be casting Iron Skin on her buddies. That's a cool thing that Mei Feng can do to give them a little bit of added survivability. In addition to that, they do have a defensive trigger on tomes, which gives them a +2 armor for the duration of that attack. So they do have a little bit more survivability than you might initially think looking at defense 5 and 6 wounds and no passive armor. But they can, you can build a little bit of survivability into them. What's so nice about rail workers is this replacement limb, this very versatile feature that they get when they attack. And when they attack with a replacement limb, you need to nominate what effect you want that replacement limb to have. So, for example, one of the things that people tout about rail workers is that they can take away slow to die action. Now that is huge in this game. If you can take slow to die away from something like an Executioner, or say a Von Schill or Colette, somebody that can heal themselves on a slow to die, that's amazing. Taking it away from Rezzers is a huge pain in their side as well. You can increase the range of the weapon to 3 inches, which is nice. You can also ignore armor and hard to wound. or you can go paired with the weapon. And with damage spread at 2, 4, 5 and a brutal trigger, that's fairly respectable. At 5 soul stones, these guys are pretty good. Now, you want to couple that with the fact that Mei Feng can use these guys as rail walk points, like that, to get around the board. And suddenly you can see the value of rail workers. Now, as an Arcanist master, some people, like myself, like to mix it up and put in large steampunk arachnids as rail walk points and melee, and they sort of fill the same role that rail workers do. And that's fine. Some people have their preferences one way or the other. Actually, in a perfect world for me, I would like to have one of each. Because it's been recently that I've been playing Mei Fang as a 10 Thunders master, and I've really started to grow and love what these rail workers can do. I personally don't think you need a lot of them, though. 1 to 2 would be fine. When you're playing the box set, obviously you're going to be playing 3. But, rail workers are not to be underestimated, and they are a very solid minion at 5 soul stones. Okay, so I've got this top-down view here. We're going to talk about the your first few games with Mei Fang. These are going to be challenging. You're going to want to play the box set because that's really going to teach you the fundamentals that you need for the crew as you continue to play. So it's not bad. I mean, it's an all-purpose box set. It can do a lot of things. It's mainly a melee heavy box set. But you've got things like you've got that kind of mobility and utility where you can use the rail workers mainly for grabbing objectives and so forth. You can use Kang as your secondary beat stick, and you use the Emberling as your utility, and you use Mei Fang for basically everything else. Primary beat stick, also an objective grabber, and basically the typical badass of that crew, if you will. So I would recommend playing the games at 25 soul stones. And be aware of your range of operations. So distances and spacing with your models is going to be very important. Don't do it exactly the way I've done it here, because these are way too close together for a first turn. You might actually have more of a cluster with, like, say, Kang and maybe one of the rail workers working in a cluster, and not too far away you may have the other cluster of rail workers and Mei Fang. That's going to give her some utility. You might start with the Emberling, and if this is a first turn against a crew that isn't sporting a lot of range, like, for example, I'm just picking on a mature Nephilim right now, just pretending that I've got some big beat stick in front of me that I want to either clog up or get some hits on. You may start with the Emberling going first, using its action to link, its 0 action to link, going defensive stance, 0 action to link, and then doing your seismic punch magical extension from Mei Fang. That's going to give Kang a 3-inch advantage. If you wanted to go against shooting, then you would, instead of linking, you might do the vent steam, and then have the Emberling fly in front of Kang once you do vent steam. That's also going to probably push a rail worker up, and you're going to want to keep some speed distance between the front of your rail walk points and some of the other points that you're going to be doing. So you might move the rail workers up, move up 2, for example, and then on Mei Fang's turn, this is where things start to get really interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. Then if you do have an opportunity, maybe you do charge with Kang. Let's just say for whatever reason this guy did something and he put himself all the way up here. You would charge with Kang, then you might 0 action fight with me, and you would do some melee attacks, probably hurt him pretty bad. On Mei Fang's turn, you will want to practice rail walking. Practice rail walking. And I'm going to give you that with a little bit of a warning. Don't overly rely on rail walking, but when you start playing her, get to know the rail walker spell very well, because what Rail Walker allows you to do is it allows you to launch attacks and use all of your AP basically for casting spells and doing melee, and you will get your built-in buffs from that. So on a typical Mei Fang attack run, let's say we've already set this up, Kang has kind of softened up the target, and he has that 3-inch +1 CB melee enacted with the fight with me. Well, Mei Fang's attack approach might be to go Rail Walker from one target to another target, and then you might, if you cheated in the tome, or you got a tome, I think it's a 7 tome you need for this, maybe a 6 tome. It's a 7 tome. Then you can Terminus to give yourself a jackhammer kick to the target. If on that jackhammer kick you hit and you've got a crow, now you can cast Iron Skin on yourself, so now you have +2 armor. Then that was all one activation, by the way. So one action, basically you're casting Expert to get up the field and attack a target and apply a buff to yourself. That's what Mei Fang's about, and that's why, yes, you may do all of this stuff in one activation. You might then continue your attack. Let's say that the model's still alive. You could either cast Scalding Breath, or you can do a Tiger Claw attack. Now, let's say you did the Tiger Claw attack, which is at this point it's going to be paired CB7, and you land either a tome or a you land either a tome or another mask. You are not only going to be applying a burning token to the target, which is going to make it easier to wound on the subsequent attack, but now you could be casting Vent Steam. So now you're going to get your armor +2, your Vent Steam, and this is where the beauty of Mei Fang comes in. You're doing your attack run, you're giving yourself buffs. If you will probably kill the target doing this, and that will give you a control card. So one activation for Mei Fang can end up being 6 or 7 different things. All unremarkable things by themselves, but they all lead up to one very remarkable activation. So that's what you're going to want to practice. You're going to want to know your operating ranges: 3 inches for Kang's Aura, 3 inches for the Seismic Punch. You're going to want to know 5 inches for Rail Walker. You're going to want to know basically the attack ranges of your models and your operating ranges, the 4 inches for Vent Steam, and the subsequent Superheat if she casts it. So, wow, that's the intro to the Mei Fang crew. I really hope you guys enjoy playing her. I love playing Mei Fang. We can talk about how powerful she is perceived to be and how powerful she really is. We'll talk about additions to her crew, where you're going to take her crew depending on playing her as an Arcanist or as a 10 Thunder Master, and that's about it. I am having so much fun playing Mei Fang, you guys. I cannot over-recommend her to you. Please give her a shot. Play her, because if you like the whole Street Fighter, combo attack, hyper finish type of master, you are going to have a blast with Mei Fang. And even your opponent is going to have a blast. Even if you're just kicking the crap out of your opponent and he can't even follow what's going on, even they will see the kind of joy that comes with having a model slide across the field, attack you a bunch of different times, and apply buffs to itself and its crew around it. So that's it for the intro. We will move on to some crew expanding options and some more in-depth stuff as we go. So thanks for watching.